Okay, so you take on the client. How do you help them develop their brand? And what is that? I mean, it's not just the logo, it's the reputation. So how do you get to the core of who this client is?
Yeah, yeah. So typically our framework starts with them. Like I said earlier, what's in the heart? Like what are your values? What's your systems and beliefs that keep you consistent every day? Or are you still floundering? As a 20 something year old kid, I was still trying to figure out what my core values were. I was this way one day and another the next. But as you get older and you start to experience life, especially as a parent, you start to see the consistent things that have helped you along the way. And hopefully you start to shed the things that aren't helping you. Like for me, it was drinking and doing all sorts of other things.
Supermodels,
So, so,
drugs.
yeah, chasing after supermodels, not healthy. So yeah, the core values are typically the very first step that we take, and you'd be surprised how many people don't know themselves. How how many people don't sit down, take the time to identify who they are. They just run and gun, and then this let the chips fall where they may. So step number one, let's get true. Let's look in the mirror and let's own these core values. And you can shift them over time. And I always use this one as an example. Maybe it becomes faith, family, fitness, foundation, whatever it is. Um, you have to be able to own those because that will become your content over time. And you have to realize, oh, I'm going to speak about these three things over and over and over and over, even if it's boring for me, because that's what develops your brand over time. The reputation that you mentioned earlier is all about being consistent with the content. Because if you're all over the place, you're going to confuse people. And if it's a business, everyone's heard the saying, a confused buyer never buys. And they're confused because you're giving them multiple messages. But if you stick to one, two, or three messages, then it becomes easier for you to, you know, number one, speak about your values because you're speaking about them all the time. So they're just like tattooed on your brain. But then also when they meet you, those are real. Like that's you in real person, in real time, IRL, as the kids would say. So yeah, that's the very first step, and it's so important for us to make sure that those are real.
Yeah, that hits home for me quite a bit. When I started this thing, I wanted it to be just like all my favorite big shows, the everything shows, right? Who Joe Rogan brings on whomever he wants, and but he does have a pattern if you pay attention, and you guys like Gary Vee and Tim Ferriss and all these big names, household names, they started off very specific. They started off hyper focused. Lewis House, he was the LinkedIn guy. And then it evolved once he had the big following. He could tell them, I'm going to do an everything show. I'm going to start bringing in other people just who are great, you know? Me, I wanted to start doing everything. So it was faith, fitness, family, finances. That's just too much. It's all over the place. And that's something you've talked about in the past, like the four C's. The very first one is clarity, right? You got to get clear on what your message is. So besides just production, do you help them develop, or do your clients, generally speaking, have something they know they want to do, and you just make it a reality?
Typically, our clients have a somewhat clear picture on what they want to do, um, the big picture. Now, the steps to get there and making sure that they develop a brand that is consistent and clear, that's when they come to us. They're like, okay, I don't know what I don't know. So let me hire the experts so that I'm doing this the right way versus kind of trying to figure it out as I go. Obviously, it'll take longer if you try to figure it out on your own. So, yes, I think that the goal is, if it's clear, then it's easier to build from there. But sometimes they do come to us and they're a hot mess. And I will say, hey, do X, Y, Z, and then come back because I need you to gain clarity on this. I don't typically try to be there during that process for them if they're not ready. So what the big picture is, what the end goal is, because it will take long, and I might just get in the way. So I think that having people who are very clear on the mission is very helpful when you're starting the brand. Because if you're in a stage where you don't know what the end mission is, you're still building the the product or the service, there's a lot going on. So I think once you identify like who you serve and what your mission and purpose is, then it gets easier to start laying down the foundation of your brand, so that you can build on top of that versus the other way around.
So the first question to you shouldn't be, how do I get advertisers?
Yeah.
How do I
Yeah,
get how
that's
do I
another
get
red
people to
flag.
sponsor my show?
Dude, that's a huge red flag. People come, they don't, there's less of that now. But back in the day, meaning 4, 5, 6 years ago,
Yeah.
people would say that, how do I monetize? They don't even have a channel yet, bro. Like, what are you talking about? How you talking about monetizing air? Nothing exists. It's crazy.
So develop your voice, the message, know who you're talking to, and then build that fan base, right? The loyal listeners, the loyal followers, and you help produce it, help, I guess, cut away some of that fat and clarify the message.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the bulk of the heavy lifting is done in the early days of the strategy, because once that's established, we're creating a playbook. We're creating a Bible for them to go back to ensure that everything that's built from there is the same. It's consistent. So we're less involved with the brand and the show, in terms of the strategy and the message as the show is launched. I mean, we still work with them at that level, but just the majority of that time is spent in the beginning. But you're right. The once the show is launched, it's weekly episodes on YouTube. It's all the shorts. It's all the reels. It's all the posts on LinkedIn. It's all of the things that you would come to expect with a brand, um, but now built in an engine with an engine that's making it consistent. Now, as far as the messaging, that's up to the host to be consistent with their message, and hopefully, all the work we did up front creates that.